What is good and what is up, y'all? It's your boy here, Jay, back and better than ever with another episode of Chargers Banter. The Chargers keep cooking with their fourth straight victory against the Cowboys in Jerry's World, 34-17, and now look to face one of the most sizzling hot teams in the NFL in the Houston Texans, and one of the best defense, if not the best defense in the entire NFL, and looking to overcome that large task and then face an in-division foe to cap off this season and see if we can snag this division. Who knows? Right here on Chargers Banter. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Chargers Banter. The Chargers keep the ball rolling and don't look to stop, but got a big task this next week coming up against the Houston Texans, a sizzling hot team on 7 straight victories and easily one of the best, if not the best defense in the entire league, but went ahead in Jerry's World and snagged their 4th straight victory and keep the ball moving in the right direction in this hardball era and really see the culture switch in the entire organization, and it's just great to see. Back-to-back 11-win seasons, first time that's happened in a long time, and Harbaugh is the reason why this team is so successful this season and last season and under the Harbaugh era. But let's get right into it, y'all, as the Chargers went into Jerry's World and took the Cowboys' hearts as they are no longer in playoff contention for good. You know, this is in the coffin. It was a little bit of hope here coming into the week with the Eagles and everything going on, but the Eagles ended up winning, so they really had nothing to play for. Really put the nail in the coffin with this win this past Sunday. But let's get right into it as the Chargers go ahead and snack their 4th straight victory versus the Cowboys in Jerry's World, 34-17 in dominating fashion after a first half shootout. 4th straight victory against a Cowboys team that has been playing some inspiring football after their tragic death of their teammate of Marshawn Nealon. And it's just tragic. Obviously, we had spoken on this previous, past podcast, but they've been playing really good football since that has happened. But this team is no pushover, is essentially what I'm saying, right? After that had happened, they really started to turn the page and really show what they're capable of. And so getting this dub in Jerry's World against a team like this has been playing pretty decent football, always great. Always great. The Chargers now improve to 11-4 on the season and secure their 2nd straight season with 11 wins, both in the Harbaugh era, which speaks volumes to this culture change and creep closer in division as the Broncos lost to the Jaguars later in that window, but still need to take care of business versus the Texans next, who are sizzling hot and playing great football, although not best showing this past weekend versus the Raiders, sneaking out that win. So the Broncos went ahead and lost to the Jaguars in the later window on Sunday, and then the Texans went ahead and barely squeaked out one against the Raiders, who obviously we went ahead and swept in back-to-back seasons, but that is needless to say. Anybody can get anybody on any given Sunday, and that's why I was saying about the Cowboys, there's no pushover. Anybody can get anybody on any given Sunday. Herbert had a hell of a game, probably playing his best game of the season, and because he was protected by his offensive line, who gave up 0 sacks to the Cowboys pass rush, 23 of 29, 300 yards flat, two tutties, 92.9 QBR, and a 132.8 passer rating. See what happens when you protect your quarterback? See what happens? This is the production that you're going to get out of a guy like Justin Herbert, right? All this hoopla about what's going on. This is what you get. Not, understandably so. It's Cowboys. The pass defense isn't all that great. The pass rush isn't all that great either. But like I had been lamenting to, inspired football. This team has been playing better football, and to do this, that just shows the improvement of the offensive line gradually, game by game, showing that they're going to make the adjustments, and they did just that, giving up 0 sacks and only 5 QB hits. Great. So I'm gonna give applaud to our offensive line for doing that, but Justin's not going to do that every game, but that's the type of stuff that you're going to get from him if you do protect him, right? 300 yards, 2 touchdowns in that QBR, and the passer rating. QJ also having a fantastic day in his return from a hammy and a nasty one-handed snag for a touchdown, going 4 receptions for 104 yards and a touchdown, while the wide receiver room in general had a field day. Trey Harris, 4 receptions, 54 yards. Slayer, 5 receptions for 44 yards, and also having over 60% of his third down receptions over his career be conversions. I'm going to repeat that. Over 60% of the third down receptions that he has in his entire career have been for conversions on third down. Insane. Gold jacket that man. Gold jacket. Slayer all day. But Ladarius also having a day. Ladidi, 4 receptions for 43 yards and a touchdown. Great snag for that touchdown. Great ball by her, while the run game was also great as well. Marion having a day, 16 rushes for 85 yards and a touchdown. Just a great day and physical all game. And Kamani now filling in an RB2, still doing great with tough yards. And Herbert also rushing for 8 rushes for 42 yards. Best year by far, using his legs, not just statistically. But again, a shout out to the O-line. I mean, we have been on their butts all season long, and they managed to also have a day giving up no sacks and only 5 QB hits, which is an insane improvement from the past 2 weeks. Just an insane improvement. And last but not least, the defense played absolutely lights out after the first half and holding this Cowboys offense, and Dak limited yards in the second half and shutting the Cowboys out, their offense out in the second half as well, and having 1 sack by Thule right before the half and forced fumble, 1 turnover in what they would call garbage time, people would say, but keep getting stops when stops were needed, and getting off the field on third down was absolutely prime today, and getting the offense back on the field, just an ultimate team performance. Not to mention that Dicker the kicker was 2 for 2 with 4 for 4 with extra points, continues to show his talent. Again, all around team performance, and got out of Dallas healthy. That is the priority, right? That I had lamented to in my past podcast. Go in and get the dub, do what you got to do, and just leave the stadium healthy. And I think that's what we did. There were a couple people, on the ground. I think that we're good, though. I think that we're good. But the Cowboys started the game off well, as Dak started off hot, 8 for 9 to start the game with a TD and 17 points in the first half, which looked to be a shootout at first in the first half. But Dak and his 2 great weapons were going off. CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens were both having great seasons overall. Just fantastic seasons for both those. And I honestly, truthfully hope that they do keep that tandem together, because it's very lethal. And with Dak, and you just have a run game with him and get some pieces on defense, it can be a formidable team. I mean, they can sling the ball. And that's the one thing that I will give credit to the Cowboys, is they can sling that rock around, and Dak can do it. So he can do it. But Pickens having 7 receptions for 130 yards, just having a field day with an insane TD grab and TD, like I said. And Lamb, 6 receptions for 51 yards. Run game was not really existent today, as Javonte Williams had 9 carries for 34 yards, and Davis had 8 carries for 23 yards. And Turpin, though, is an upside for their special teams, having 6 returns for 148 yards on returns. Just absolutely insane. He is absolutely lethal. They also got to implement him more into the offense next season with Brian Schottenheimer, and I hope that they do that. But outside of that, the Cowboys team was stalled by the Bolts and now have their season officially end this week, now looking towards next season. Ultimately, it was up and down season for the Cowboys, who traded a key piece to their team and future in Micah Parsons before the season even started, and now look to reinforce and maybe even franchise tag George Pickens. But we will see what the Cowboys do. They got a lot of things to figure out, including, whether or not, they're going to keep George Pickens, like I just said, right? Franchise tag him. You're going to pay him. I don't know. And then are you going to go out and you're going to get another big prime piece on offense or defense? Because I still think that they need 1 or 2 more pieces away from really being contenders in that division with the Philadelphia Eagles. But on to next week for the Bolts, as we play host to the sizzling Texans at home at 1:30 at SoFi. The Texans just came off a dub versus the Raiders and are on a high of a 7-game winning streak, not losing a game since November 2nd, guys. This team is sizzling and is really good. So this is absolute playoff team, bona fide. And to be honest, they could make a run to the Super Bowl. So this is a team that we really have to focus all of our attention towards and try to give our best effort towards. But Stroud is playing out of his mind, and so is Nico Collins and Agumbawale, their running back, not to mention that their league-leading defense led by Will Anderson, Daniil Hunter and Lassiter, and Al Shire, number one in total yards allowed with only 269 yards per game allowed. And our offense and on offensive going to have their offense is going to have their head tripping on my words. The offensive line is gonna have to have their heads on a swivel, and so is Herbo, because the defense is gonna be flying around for the Texans. We need to just protect Herbert at all costs. At all costs, right? Get out of this game, yes, with a win, but healthy, more importantly, right? I know many want this win as a revenge game because of the playoff game that happened last year, but would be better to beat them in a revenge game in the playoffs rather than a revenge game in the regular season, because they're most likely going to probably see them in the playoffs, right? And also with a healthy quarterback, right? So that's my point, right? When do you want to beat them? Now in the regular season when it's not necessarily a meaningful game, or when it's a meaningful game when we played them in that meaningful game last year? So that's even more so of a get back, is in that same game last year with a healthy quarterback. Obviously, we had a healthy quarterback last year, but I'm saying we don't want to be injured going into that game. We don't want to be injured going into the playoffs. I understand the magnitude of these games and the teams that we're playing, but we don't want to force the issue too much. Yes, we want to play great, but we also want to be healthy, and we want to be able to play them in the playoffs, hopefully. So yes, we also want the division too, but to not push the envelope if things go sideways, like to not push it all crazy, but also just to keep your head, and to keep going, not physically, but push mentally on the grind, when things do go sideways, especially against these two teams that we're facing in the Houston Texans and the Denver Broncos, who have two of the best defenses in the league. And two teams like this to end the season is just fantastic. Two bona fide playoff teams to end the season that that they're going to be in the playoffs, and really are playoff games before the playoffs. So we're getting primed and ready, but also, like I just said, to stay healthy with these last two games and not push the envelope, but to push mentally through these hard times when things do go sideways. Right. But if it's physically, please go to the sideline and next man up. Not trying to be not healthy for the playoffs, guys. But we need this dub for a chance at the division. But let's not focus on that too much. Let's just focus on trying to manage this great defense and great team of the Houston Texans, and then cap the season off next week at Denver in the Mile High City. But that is a wrap of this episode of Chargers Banter, man. I'm just juiced, y'all. Can't believe it. 4 straight victories for this team, and only looking up for here. Stay healthy, stay pushing forward, and we're going to get this dub, y'all. Like I said, we're going to continue to get these dubs. But that is a wrap, like I said, of this episode of Chargers Banter. Another W. Let's keep it going. Let's keep riding this high, this wave before the playoffs and maybe for the division. But let's see y'all next week, and tune in next week as we are going to be facing the Houston Texans. We out. She's a killer.